few years ago, you posted a video with the somewhat tongue-in-cheek title, "How to Enter First Jhana." Jhana is often translated as something that can be entered upon. So
through a technique or meditation sort of method.
Yeah. So putting aside the Pali inaccuracies, could you expand on why understanding entering upon jhana is an inaccurate way of understanding jhana?
Well, no, it's the implications of what entering means. That's what's inaccurate. That's why I said I took how to enter jhana factually. It wasn't like how to enter jhana, boom, you can't enter it. No, you can enter it, just not the way that's commonly presupposed.
Yeah, which is like, I am entering jhana.
Which is like, I'm doing a meditation practice that then results in a special experience that will be jhana. And also then kind of hand in hand with that, it's the assumption of, I just go about my life, and if I commit to these like meditation techniques and methods, I could still experience and have access to jhana without, having significantly uprooted sensuality, unwholesome states, dwelling restrained, with a gradual training and virtue and all of that. So then it becomes like a very kind of mystical type of esoteric practice of a special access to it taught by this monk or that monk through this method or that method. But if you read the suttas, given the jhana is from the suttas, you realize, there is a method to jhana, which is gradual training of withdrawal from the senses, seeing the danger in the slightest fault, being watchful, knowing your intentions, not acting out of greed, aversion, delusion, dwelling secluded, and contemplating relinquishment, vosaga, left and right, to everything that's dear to you. Then jhana will be inevitable. But see, that's already nowhere near on the level of techniques and methods that people would assume, or people are taught that jhana is on.
So this idea of like a technique is in a way, it's affirming the wrong order that
you will not be able to engage in a technique without the wrong assumption, without the wrong assumption of the wrong order, wrong of you.
In a way, it is. It's like you're putting the hindrance first.
Well, you're acting out of it.
You're acting out of it, exactly. Which is.
I think I did another talk. Jhana is a lifestyle or something like that.
I think it was like jhana. You don't enter jhana. Jhana enters you.
No, but there's also jhana is a lifestyle.
All right, there's also
yeah. I'm pretty sure there was that one because it was exactly that. You realize, you want to enter jhana, your entire lifestyle needs to be that. And that's why, as I said, in all of the other talks on the jhana playlist and so on, it's just, you see in the suttas, it's always the pleasure of seclusion from the unwholesome states arises. So you experience this sense of safety from all the unwholesome things that used to overwhelm you and control you. And then after that, you enter jhana. The mind is composed in that jhana experience, if you want to call it that way. But usually even that assumption, it's like, no, I enter jhana, I enter this special experience, and then this tremendous pleasure arises as a result of that jhana, because see, first jhana is pleasant. No, the withdrawal from unwholesome states is pleasant. Safety from unwholesome states is pleasant. And that's what jhana is. Not like I enter jhana, and that pleasure withdraws me from unwholesome states and provides me with safety from unwholesome states. That's upside down.
So could another way of describing it be, so you become established in what the Buddha would describe as mindfulness, and then you direct that mindfulness more particularly or more specifically to like the first jhana, the cessation of...
Well, it's, I suppose in the broadest terms that would be correct, but again, you direct mindfulness can easily be taken as, so now I'm doing this directional mindfulness for the jhana. No. When your experience is fully purified from the 5 hindrances, from the craving, from the aversion, from the resisting of pain, from breaking of the virtue, from unwatchfulness, from company, that's it. you enter jhana in that negative way. By not doing certain things, your mind gets established and experiences that sense of safety on account of unwholesome things that you stopped being bound by, and then you know, okay, this is what jhana is. But if you think you can do something to enter jhana in that sense, or I attend to this and I change that, you're just doing it again with your own craving.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a meditation with central principle, not without. So that's why, like, the whole idea of jhana being the meditation experience should actually be completely abolished. Like, again, as I said, it's not, in broader sense, it's not wrong, but in a practical sense, it always goes hand in hand with all these extremely wrong assumptions and mistakes. So it's better and safer to stop even regarding jhana as any part of meditation experience and focus on the gradual training of withdrawal from unwholesome states, seeing the danger in the slightest fall, being watchful, knowing your intentions, dwelling in seclusion, seeing the signs of your mind, and then jhana is the next thing that you don't even have to want. It will have to happen if you develop everything else rightly.
I've had people ask,
that's why it's often included as part of the gradual training towards enlightenment. In other words, it's a next step that will come on its own if you start developing gradual training correctly. The mind will be composed in the right manner, the pleasure of safety will arise in the right manner, and you will know that.
I've had someone ask me, like, they do these 10-day silent retreats, or where they sort of sit in a hall, and they say, like, I have no intention of speaking to anyone. Like, it's like as if I'm alone, secluded. Could you describe why that isn't the case? Why actually, factually, you need to be?
Well, the problem with that is because it's a 10-day retreat. So what have you been doing before the first day of the retreat, and what are you going to do after the 10th day of the retreat? Is your life like fully, celibate, withdrawn from sensuality, day in, day out? Or is it just, I'm trying my best, and then I go on a retreat where everything is intense, but then I go back to there's that Mahanama, the noble disciple, layman. He occurs throughout Majjhima Nikaya with the Buddha, talking about various things. And there was that sutta in the Buddha, and that sutta in Majjhima Nikaya where he says, how come the noble disciple who has understood the Dhamma clearly, has seen the perils of sensuality, sometimes still sensuality would come and you forget all the Dhamma you heard and the mind is just obsessed with sensual desire and so on. And then the Buddha says, for whoever has not experienced and developed that pleasure different than the pleasure of senses, i.e. pleasure of jhana on account of the gradual training, their mind can still be attracted to sensuality. In Chinese agamas, there is a parallel, the same sutta, but actual description where the Buddha says whoever hasn't experienced this, it's changed, whereby it says whoever still lives with his wives and is not basically celibate, enjoys the pleasure of sensuality, thoughts of sensuality, that's why you're not experiencing the sensual pleasure different from the senses. And that kind of ties in even better with another sutta, I think in Anguttara Nikaya, I think I did a talk on it, where the Buddha says that the one who doesn't see danger, gratification, danger and the escape in regard to sensuality, the entire sensuality, that he can establish his mind in the first jhana, such thing is not possible. So you need to thoroughly withdraw yourself through seeing the peril of sensuality, and then jhana will come. But as I said, more often than not, especially when it comes to these intense group retreats and so on, the idea is completely upside down. Oh, my life still very much revolves around sensuality. I cannot even fathom or consider being completely celibate and giving all the sensual joy that I get from the world. But I'll just do these intense retreats and get these quick access to these higher states. They will then do the work of renunciation for me. And that's just simply not how it works. The importance to recognize that it's not an extension of your meditation technique, it's not a special novelty experience that arises, it's quite the opposite. The unshakable mindfulness on account of full withdrawal from sensuality because you've seen the peril of it. Danger, exactly. And then you see, if I recognize that I'm first of all, if you recognize the danger in itself,
don't want it,
that you haven't been seeing before, that in itself already offers you a sense of safety.
Good.
Wow, this was so close to me, invisible all these years, and now I see it clearly.
And then you're
So
free.
just for that, you will be relieved.
Yeah.
Let alone if now you pursue that practice that goes even further from that, sensuality that used to attract you.
Yeah. And that is the safety, is seeing the danger, because you don't want something that's dangerous. If you don't see it as dangerous, then you'll be attracted to it. Because
The poisonous drink, isn't it? The simile. Not recognizing that the poison's there because it's not detectable through any of the senses. You can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't hear it, you can't taste it. And that's another problem of, I think I must have done a talk on that as well, of general meditation technique that's concerned with observation. Just the neutral, like how they call that, non-engaging, sort of impersonal, just observe anything that comes and goes.
Which again is the wrong order.
Well, again, you're observing that with your personality.
Yeah.
You can't just assume the neutrality when your experience is top to bottom taken as mine, I am, and personal. So that's why like this whole discernment of the poison becomes impossible, because poison is undetectable through your senses. It can only be known once you're withdrawn from the senses. But here you are, even your meditation technique revolves around furthering of your senses, catching every single moment between your different observations, every single tactile sensation, every single thought, every single sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, touching, feeling, sitting. So absorbing yourself in where the problem isn't even more.
The eye can't see the eye.
Yeah.
The thoughts can't access the mind.
Yeah. So that's like that peril, the danger of sensuality needs to be discerned on that reflexive level. But if you still expect jhana and liberation from all the unwholesome states to come on the level of technical and methodical observation of like whatever sight, sound, smell, taste, touches in case of sensations, the entire domain of knowledge is shut. You switch it off.
You're feeding the hindrances which you're trying to escape. So it's like this.
Yeah, it's still very much within. And sometimes people might argue, but no, see, like, the suttas talk about this, and I still contemplate that. All the sutta contemplations and all the parallels that you might draw from the suttas and so on are secondary to what you put first. And what you put first is observations of my senses. Sense of touch, sensations, sense of whatever, sound, smell, taste, sights, perceptions of my thoughts. Again, all based on the assumptions that you have a neutral access to them.
Whereas in the suttas, the mindfulness, the order that this is encouraging is this yoni.
As in the suttas, exactly. You don't need to be observing every tactile sensation and every sort of thought that passes through your mind. All you need to do is sustain the context of not acting towards the unwholesome ones.
Not acting out of it.
Endure the pressure, exactly. And then if it's not unwholesome, if it's not rooted in pressure, you can do it. And you realize that's what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is not moment-to-moment watchfulness of every second. Mindfulness is not acting out of unwholesome states. The context that's developed on account of not acting out of wholesome states is what recollectedness, right memory, correct recollection and right context is. And also, if all you are concerned with is observing sensations or nostrils or whatever technique you're doing, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, the intention behind all those actions is invisible to you, because there has to be a reason why you're doing those things. So why is it that you're observing sensations or trying to enter jhana through a technique? Why is that so important to you? Do you know that? Do you see that it's not rooted in craving? Do you see that it's not rooted in trying to either avoid pain or prolong the pleasure? Where is it rooted at? Because it's obviously, if you look closely enough, you realize there is a degree of compulsion there. There is a degree of, no. This is my technique, this is my method, this is like, I've been doing this for so long. It's like, well, see, that's already very unsuitable basis for entering jhana. If there is craving involved, if there is pressure involved, means there are hindrances involved. And if there are hindrances involved, there is no such thing as jhana there for you.
That can be true. I notice even if your technique is not as sort of
exactly
proliferated as those, but you're still doing it with that same attitude that you don't recognize why you're even doing it.
That's why, like the Buddha said, in jhana, that the pleasure of jhana is not something you can crave for, before or after, or while you're in it. There are no underlying tendencies underlying that, and that's why that pleasure is wholesome. So you enter jhana by relinquishing craving, by relinquishing things you crave for, in which for most people who learn jhana beforehand would be relinquishing the idea of jhana, relinquishing the idea of meditation technique leading to jhana. That will bring you closer to jhana than doing the technique towards jhana. And once, yes, the mind abides in such relinquishment, withdrawn from unwholesome states, in seclusion, then as the Buddha said, yeah, whatever, like whether in that state, or first jhana or second jhana and so on, whether I walk, eat, go to toilet, extend my arm, whatever I do, it's divine. It's outside of the domain of the hindrances. It's pure.
And
So you live in jhana, you abide in that jhana.
That's because you've relinquished the body that is the necessary basis for all of the hindrances. So the hindrances are still affecting the body, but you've disowned it, for example, in the first jhana.
Yeah, and that obviously kind of, calls for redefining hindrances. Statement hindrances affect the body. I know what you mean, but so if you have not surmounted the hindrances, your idea of hindrances affecting the body would be very different than if you have surmounted the hindrances, and then you can say, yes, hindrances apply to the body, but there's obviously a very different level of how affected the body is for somebody who is free from hindrances and somebody who isn't.
And that's where, in our last talk, we talked about authenticity. That's where it comes in, really, like seeing, is this rooted in craving? It's like really being self-honest.
You might catch yourself and you realize, okay, this is rooted in craving. I'm here craving against these hindrances in order to re-establish myself in jhana, which is why I'm within hindrances, because of my craving, not because of the hindrances. So now you recognize that doesn't mean, okay, so I'll stop this. No. It means like, okay, no, I detected the mistake, so all I should do now is still strive to be free from hindrances, just minus my craving for being free from hindrances. And that brings it to that whole point that we often talk about. So then you learn how to endure it rightly. Because if you endure it rightly, sufficiently enough, you will be free from it. It's your craving while you're enduring things, whether you want it or not. It's your craving that interferes and obscures and blurs that picture. So you might endure things for decades, but if you endure with your craving that you're unaware of, that endurance will not bear fruit. But if you recognize, okay, yeah, endurance is necessary, however, craving is not necessary. I can stop craving to either have jhana or be free from these unwholesome states. I can just endure them without acting out of it, by body, speech, and mind. And that's how you free yourself from hindrances. And see, that's not underlined by craving now anymore. The result of that will be free from craving. And the result of that is jhana.
Because I really like the simile or the analogy of addiction, of being kind of freeing yourself from addiction. I don't know, is this a useful analogy? Like if you want to be free from the addiction to cigarettes or whatever, it's not going to work if you sort of really just want the end results of kind of, you have to be sort of wanting to actually do the work of not giving in to continually smoking cigarettes, as in you can't sort of expect to do something else that will then allow you to not be addicted to cigarettes.
Theoretically, analogy is right,
but it doesn't give you the...
Practically, what the person needs to see is like, it's not enough when it comes to sensuality to not just engage with sensuality physically. Like in case of cigarettes, all you need to do is physically stop smoking it, and then the body will detox itself and you will not crave for cigarettes anymore. Now in case of sensuality, that same craving goes far beyond body. It's bodily, of course, but it's rooted in your mind. So you will need to not engage with the body when it comes to sensuality. You will need to not engage with speech, but then you need to be enduring it on the mental level without acting out towards it, even by means of like distraction and so on. And if you endure it long enough on the mental level without acting out towards it, one way or the other, that's how you will then uproot it in your mind as well. But what happens is people would be withdrawn in the body, in the speech, but then mentally they would feel justified then in doing all sorts of things, including their practice, because they don't want to deal with that pure pain of saying no to sensuality without replacing it or covering it up. So that's what happens. Somebody like becomes sense-restrained and celibate, and then they start doing all this work and projects and seemingly meaningful and engaging in ideas and all of that to keep themselves occupied and floating, because if they stop distracting themselves in that engaging manner, externally wholesome manner, well, if they stop doing it, then internally they would feel the pain on that mental, and that's what you need to feel. So that's what I mean, like even practicing the Dhamma, doing things so to not deal with the pain is not the Dhamma. Dhamma is on the level of enduring it and not distracting yourself from it.
You can even, like, I don't know, read a sutta about freedom from sensuality.
Or do a subha, that's the common one. I must do a subha because I don't want to endure the pain of this. Yes, you must do a subha, but not at the expense of enduring the central pressure. And then, exactly, if you don't habitually just try to get rid of that pain of central pressure and sensuality, you can do a subha at any given time within that sensuality. And that's what Buddha said. You would be able, a monk who has developed his mind correctly, would be able to see ugly within beautiful, or beautiful within ugly, or ugly within ugly, whatever permutation, he sees it right there as it is. He wouldn't need to engage in a set of motions, techniques and steps and psychological methods to now replace this sensuality with a subha, because again that's rooted in craving, and craving is the root of sensuality. So although you have nullified the currently attractive object of your sensuality, the whole framework of central pressure and pull and leaning towards those objects remains unchanged. And that's exactly what happened to the monks that did not develop yoniso manasikara sufficiently and were trying to do this as subha. They ended up being attracted to corpses and so on that suttas mentioned. So that's why I keep saying the most important thing is knowledge, clarity, honesty in regard to the intentions behind your actions, whatever those actions might be, body, speech or mind. So here we are, I have a central pressure. What do? Oh, let me spend next 6 hours reading the suttas and doing walking meditation. Why? It's not that it's bad, but it's not good either. Depends on why you do it. Are you doing it so you don't have to feel the pain of sensuality? Or are you doing it because you already saw the way out of sensuality and now you just want to fortify that? Which one is it? Do you think that just walking up and down and reading the suttas will magically give you a cure for sensuality? Or do you just think, oh no, I just need some more information to know how to endure this purely without resisting it, kicking and screaming or trying to get rid of it? So your intention will determine whether you're doing it rightly or not.
Another word I've heard you use for intention is movement, and that's helped me in the past too. Also contemplate on the nature of intention. For example, I'm speaking to you now. I'm choosing to speak to you. So there is this sort of intentional intention, and the reason why that is, I've used the word intentional intention is because that choice is contained within a broader intention, for example, of my heart beating, my brain functioning, my lungs breathing, that allow me to speak to you.
Right, the necessary basis for you in engaging, moving along those intentions.
So this yoniso manasikara you talk about, one way of sort of reflecting on one's intentions is like, are my intentions causing me to ignore this broader context, which helps me to understand that these choices I'm making, I don't own.
Point is like you to recognize, like, of course you can't at the same time, to the same extent, think about your current situation of beating heart, body here, and intentions you're engaging with. They will take some attention. That's inevitable. Yeah. But what is not inevitable is you losing perspective on account of choosing to act out of those intentions. And that's what you recognize. Okay, so Like now you have a intention to ask me a question, and then maybe that intention is rooted because I'm restless, or because I don't want to be quiet, or because I'm curious, or because I'm bored, or obviously in this case, because I want to know. Either of those ways will be engaging to some extent, but as long as you now know, okay, but see, if I am asking it because I want to know, the answer can then shed more light for the future practice and context. So in that case, like, pursuit of information is wholesome, because it can help you then eventually stop depending on external information. Because sometimes people kind of, get a sense of that, but then too soon they stop asking questions because I mustn't ask questions. That will just be information and intellectual knowledge. Well, yeah, you need to know what you're supposed to do. Either way, you will be engaged, and to that extent, you will lose perspective. But see, this course of action, loss of perspective, can then result in broadening perspective later on, because now you know what to look for, you will know what to notice, you might then notice it. Going a different course of action of not asking questions or asking questions for wrong reasons and not paying attention to it, well, again, that's also distracting itself, but then in the future as well will perpetuate the distraction, and it will not broaden the context. So it comes down to, why do I want to do this? And often, like, people might be asking me questions on Dhamma, but then they keep asking the same thing every time we meet. And then it's obviously apparent to me, but it might not still be apparent to them that, well, you're not doing this for the right reasons anymore. You're just repeating the same thing because you need emotional conviction. You need emotional kind of reassurance. You're not merely seeking information on account of which to practice. You want me to reassure you. And that's not going to happen. Even if I say things you want to hear, it's your own mind that's making you insecure and doubtful, which means it's going to last only for a period of time before it comes back.
Yeah.
And so yes, initially the questions might have been rooted in really wanting to learn, but then that got obscured for yourself, and now your questions are rooted just in trying to rekindle that inspiration on account of very wise words that you heard externally.
Using you as some kind of pillar of strength.
Yeah. And you might do that. It's not a necessarily immediate clear cut, but sooner or later you will know clearly what you're doing. And that's then when it comes down to, okay, so now are you consciously, volitionally choosing to perpetuate it, or are you trying to put a stop to it?
Are you acting out of it?
Exactly. Are you acting out of it? And that's when the kind of choice of practicing the Dhamma is brought back down onto you.
Because that is the opportunity of seeing anicca.
Yeah. That is the opportunity of like converging in the right direction and reinforcing the right direction. And it's entirely up to you. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I missed the chance, or I slipped it, I didn't see this. No. It's always on the level of a very conscious choice that you, when you become aware of it, decide to either ignore or do something about it.
This also brings me back to the question I asked earlier on about just like sitting in a hall full of people, because I used to do that a lot, and there was always this sense of this might be a bit off topic, but this sense of there being this collective responsibility.
Oh yeah,
we're doing this together.
Oh, you got to abandon that
exactly
long before you even start.
That's
practicing.
why seclusion is so important. Being alone, and this is individual responsibility.
Yeah. But being alone mentally, I think, as well, as in not...
being alone with your own choices and recognizing there is no collective group here. Yeah.
And even if you're sort of engaging with somebody asking questions or something...
you still realize where the emphasis is.
Yeah, you have to be doing it ultimately in order to be not needing it.
Yeah.
But you kind of end up wanting to do
what,
it for
what you described, that often happens in the monasteries as well. Monks develop this notion of we are in this together type of thing, and it's absolutely laughable in a way. Like from the authenticity point of view, thinking we are doing this together, it's just what? Like I was saying that in some other context, like the assembly of Arahants, it's not an assembly, it's just a group of individuals. So it's an external group of every single individual for himself. That's why it's the purest assembly.
Yeah.
There is no sense of projected identity in the group. It's on the level of inauthenticity.
It's on a completely wrong
It's on the level
direction.
of, it's easier for me to do this if everybody else around me is doing this. Yeah, that can be a factual kind of motive, to start with, fine, sure. Get reminded of what you're supposed to do. But if you don't see a problem with that, it means you're never going to grow out of it.
Yeah.
Means you will need then everybody else to keep doing the same thing, so you keep your peace of mind intact. If one person steps out of the line, you will be existentially challenged, because it reminds you of the fact that, yeah, we are all doing the same now, but at any given moment, any given person can choose to do the opposite. And that then means, oh, but then I can choose to do the opposite. Means I'm not in control of this, heavily controlled mind otherwise, and the environment and the circumstances and the rules and observances that we all adhere to. And then there you go, your peace went out of the window.
I'm the owner of my actions.
Yeah.
Alone with my actions.
Yeah, there's nothing and no one can come between you and your actions.